All right, let's kick off this week's deep dive. Cybersecurity's in the spotlight again, and we've got a bunch of stories that'll make you think. It's like tech, global stuff, even everyday things. They're all kind of mixed up now in ways that are both cool and kind of creepy.
Yeah, no doubt. The whole landscape out there is like a puzzle that's constantly changing.
So first up, China's making moves in the airplane business, right? They've got this new passenger jet, the COMAC C919, and it's starting to go head-to-head with Boeing and Airbus. Not just a business story, though, right? Seems pretty geopolitical to me.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. China's airlines have already ordered like 300 of these planes. That's a huge chunk of change, potentially $30 billion that Boeing and Airbus might miss out on. And then there's the whole intellectual property question. Some folks are worried that China might have, borrowed some ideas a little too closely, could really shake things up in the aviation world, maybe even global trade overall.
Makes you wonder what their end game is. Are they gunning for the top spot in the whole aviation game?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They're definitely ambitious, that's for sure.
From planes to PlayStations now. Anyone else get caught in that global PlayStation network outage a while back? Millions of gamers suddenly locked out. They said it was a technical glitch, but some people are saying it could have been an attack.
Glitch or attack. It shows how much we depend on these online services for everything from fun to work to like essential stuff. Imagine if your bank or the hospital system went down like that.
Yeah, good reminder to have a backup plan for online stuff and just life in general.
Couldn't agree more. Always got to be ready for the unexpected and have a way to get what you need, even when things go sideways.
Speaking of unexpected, Hurricane Helene, right? All that saltwater flooding. Apparently, it caused a bunch of electric car fires.
Yeah, salt water and EV batteries. Not a good mix. Can cause a short circuit, and those fires are tough to put out. And it's not just Teslas either. A bunch of different EV models are susceptible. Makes you think about EV safety in crazy weather, especially as more and more people are driving them.
Like, every new tech comes with some surprises, right? Stuff we got to figure out along the way.
Totally. Got to take the good with bad and find ways to deal with the downsides as we go.
Keeping your systems safe is super important as businesses rely more and more on digital systems, and that's where turnkey cybersecurity can really help.
Yeah, we're here to help small businesses just like yours make sure they're safe and sound in this crazy world of cybersecurity. And we offer a whole suite of services specifically tailored for you. So that's ensuring CMMC compliance and doing penetration testing. We also run vulnerability scans, and we can help you develop a comprehensive risk assessment.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, it doesn't.
We handle incident response, should the unfortunate happen, and we guide you through migrations like GCC. We just want to make sure your transitions are smooth and that you're secure.
It's all about peace of mind, right? You focus on what you do best, running your business, and we'll make sure that your digital world is safe and sound.
Okay, time for something a little more fun and literally out of this world. Astronauts can vote from space, right? From the International Space Station. So like absentee ballots, encryption, beaming stuff via satellite, the whole 9 yards.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? All that just to cast a vote from space. Says something about civic duty, though, even when you're orbiting the Earth.
Makes you think about voting down here, though, right? If they can figure it out up there, maybe we can make it easier and more secure for everyone on the ground.
Yeah, for sure. It really highlights how important it is for everyone to have a voice and be able to vote safely, no matter where they are.
Back down to earth now, though, and straight into a courtroom in Colorado. This former election official, Tina Peters, got a pretty hefty sentence, almost 9 years, for messing with election machines.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Shows how crucial it is to keep our elections secure and make sure people trust the system. Tampering with voting machines or data, that just undermines everything.
Definitely makes you think about all the talk about election integrity and all the misinformation out there. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. Especially with another election coming up, we got to be extra careful about what we believe and who we trust.
And speaking of misinformation, this next story is like straight out of a cybersecurity nightmare. Hackers in Russia are using AI to trick people. It's pretty messed up. They've got these fake websites promising, get this, AI-powered notification of photos.
Yeah, except instead of, doing what they claim, these sites actually infect your computer with malware. And the worst part is they often target young guys, teenagers who don't know any better. Preying on curiosity, it's really disturbing.
Like, tech can be used for good or bad, right? And it's a reminder that we got to be careful about what we believe online. If it sounds too good to be true, well, You know the rest.
Exactly. Important to talk to young people about staying safe online, how to avoid scams and bad websites.
Okay, ready for some good news? Finally, some relief from those crazy password rules.
Yeah.
NIST, the folks who set the cybersecurity standards for the government, are proposing some changes, and they're good ones.
It's about time. No more of those ridiculously complex passwords that are impossible to remember and probably don't even work that well anyway. Longer passphrases are in, less frequent changes, and goodbye to those annoying security questions.
Music to my ears. I can finally retire that password I've been using since college, which, let's be honest, was probably way too easy to crack anyway.
The new guidelines make a lot more sense. Research shows longer phrases are tougher to crack, and changing your password all the time just makes people write them down or use weak ones.
It's good to see the experts coming around to a more user-friendly approach, Makes it easier for everyone to actually be secure.
Yeah, security and usability got to go hand in hand if you want people to actually follow the rules.
Okay, so this next story is wild. Real-life stuff. This crypto scammer, Adam Issa, the guy behind the Zort platform, apparently he had LA sheriff's deputies on his payroll.
Crazy, right? The guy was living large, spending like crazy, and it was all allegedly from money he stole from investors. The FBI claims he was paying at least one deputy a ridiculous amount, like $280,000 a month for, quote, complete resources. Basically, using their position to get info on one of his victims illegally.
If that's true, that's messed up. Makes you wonder about corruption, even in law enforcement, and how these cybercriminals can exploit it.
Definitely raises some serious questions about trust and accountability. Shows how important it is to keep things transparent and deal with corruption quickly to protect public trust in law enforcement.
All right, time to check in with our resident cybersecurity guru, Mitch Tannenbaum. The guy always has his finger on the pulse of all the latest threats and trends. Let's see what he's got for us this week.
Always interesting to hear what Mitch has to say.
First up, a warning about North Korean hackers. Apparently, they're posing as IT workers, targeting hundreds of companies, fake profiles, fake resumes, all to sneak into systems and steal data.
Yeah, it's called social engineering, and it's getting more sophisticated all the time. They prey on people's willingness to help, their trust. It's pretty sneaky.
So another reminder to be careful who we trust online, right? And to double-check identities before giving anyone access to sensitive stuff.
Absolutely. Organizations need to have strong security protocols in place, too. Things like background checks and multi-factor authentication. Got to make it harder for these guys to slip through the cracks.
Okay, this one's a bit political. Mitch mentioned that the U.S. intelligence community is warning about Russia spreading fake videos, specifically targeting Vice President Kamala Harris.
Disinformation campaigns, they're a big problem, especially during elections. Trying to sow discord, manipulate public opinion, undermine trust. It's a whole playbook.
It's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's fake online, that's for sure. We all got to be extra careful about what we believe and where we get our information from.
Definitely. Check your sources, be critical, don't share stuff you haven't verified. We all have a part to play in stopping the spread of disinformation.
Okay, switching gears to transportation now. Mitch is warning about cybercriminals targeting rail and transportation systems. Kind of a new target, right?
Yeah, these sectors haven't always been the best at cybersecurity, which makes them prime targets. And as they rely more and more on technology, the risks just keep going up.
I mean, remember that Colonial Pipeline attack caused all those fuel shortages and panic buying. Cybersecurity isn't just about protecting data, it's about protecting the stuff we need to function every day.
Exactly. Governments and industries got to work together to step up their game and protect critical infrastructure before it's too late.
Okay, this next one is a little less serious, at least financially speaking. Mitch mentioned that the FTC fined a company called Do Not Pay $193,000 for claiming their AI could replace lawyers.
Bit of a reality check, right? AI is cool and all, but it's not magic. Denope's claims were definitely exaggerated, misleading. The FTC had to step in and protect consumers from those false promises.
Shows that we shouldn't believe everything we hear about AI,
Yes.
right? Even if it sounds convincing.
Totally. AI is a tool, just like any other, and it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to make sure it's developed and used responsibly.
Back to more serious vulnerabilities now. Mitch pointed out that Rockwell Automation, a big name in industrial automation, found some critical flaws in their software. The kind that could let someone take control remotely. Not good.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Rockwell software is used in all kinds of critical infrastructure, power plants, water treatment factories. Imagine if someone could hack into those systems, the damage they could do.
Talk about a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Organizations that run critical infrastructure, they got to make cybersecurity their top priority, period.
No doubt about it. They have a huge responsibility to protect the systems we all depend on, and they need to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to finding and fixing vulnerabilities.
Okay, now for some international news. Mitch mentioned that the UK is cracking down on LinkedIn, Microsoft, for using user data to train their AI without proper permission or being transparent about it.
Interesting development, right? It's part of this growing debate about data privacy. Regulators around the world are starting to pay attention to how companies collect, use, and protect our data, especially when it comes to AI development.
Our data is valuable, that's for sure.
Mhm.
And we need to know how it's being used. Companies need to be more upfront about what they're doing and get our consent before they use our data for things like AI training.
Definitely seeing a shift in power where individuals have more control over their data. That's a good thing for privacy
Right.
in the long run.
Okay, last story from Mitch's update before we wrap up part one. He's warning that millions of vehicles could be vulnerable to hacking.
It's a growing concern for sure. As cars get more and more connected, they also get more vulnerable. All those cool features, they open up new ways for hackers to get in, unlock doors, start engines, even disable safety features. It's pretty scary.
It makes you wonder if all the bells and whistles are worth the risk, doesn't it?
Yeah, gotta weigh the pros and cons, right? We gotta demand that car manufacturers prioritize security, build in strong protections from the start. No shortcuts when it comes to safety.
We'll be back with more from Mitch's update and the rest of our cybersecurity news roundup in part two of this deep dive.
Looking forward to it. There's still a lot to uncover. Ready for more of Mitch's cybersecurity insights?
Absolutely. What else did he have to say?
Well, he brought up something that really surprised me, a cyber attack on a water system. The one in Arkansas City, to be specific.
A water system.
Really?
That never would have crossed my mind as a target for
I
hackers.
know, right? But these systems, they're getting more automated, more connected to the internet,
Right.
which means they become vulnerable, just like any computer system. In this case, they had to switch to manual control because of the attack.
Oh, wow. I bet that caused a ton of disruption, not to mention the potential health risks if the water supply was actually compromised.
Exactly. It shows how important cybersecurity is for these essential services. A lot of these systems weren't designed with security in mind, and now they're playing catch up, trying to protect themselves.
It's a race against time, for sure. Hopefully they can close those security gaps before something really bad happens. So what else was on Mitch's radar?
He mentioned that MoneyGram, the money transfer service, is still dealing with the fallout from a cyber attack.
Oh, man. That must be a nightmare for their customers.
It is. Their operations were disrupted, so people are experiencing delays and all sorts of frustrations trying to send and receive money.
It seems like no one is immune these days, from small-town water systems to global financial companies. It's a wake-up call for all of us.
Absolutely. We all need to understand the risks, how to protect ourselves, and be ready to adapt as the threats keep evolving.
Speaking of big companies facing threats, Mitch also mentioned a data breach at Dell.
Yeah, they apparently had 3 leaks in a single week, all stemming from the same incident.
3 leaks. That's not a good look for a tech giant.
Definitely raises questions about their security practices. The details are still a bit fuzzy, but it seems like personal data might have been compromised.
Data breaches are becoming way too common. It's a reminder to be careful about what info we share online and who we share it with.
And we need to hold companies accountable for protecting our data. If they can't keep it safe, they shouldn't be collecting it in the first place.
Couldn't agree more. So what's next on Mitch's cybersecurity rundown?
He talked about third-party risk management, the idea that you're only as strong as your weakest link. He used the Twilio attack and a Hezbollah attack as examples. Cyber criminals are going after third-party vendors more and more as a way to get to bigger organizations.
Makes sense. It's like that old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Exactly. Organizations need to be just as careful about their vendors' security practices as they are about their own.
Yet another layer of complexity in an already complicated world. What else did Mitch highlight?
He emphasized the importance of securing industrial IoT and SCADA systems.
Can you remind us what those are exactly?
Of course, SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. These systems control critical infrastructure, things like power grids, water treatment plants, manufacturing facilities. And industrial IoT refers to all those devices, sensors, machines that are connected to the internet in those industrial settings.
So we're talking about the systems that keep our lights on, our water running, our factories operating. Pretty important stuff.
Exactly. And as these systems get more connected to the internet, they become more exposed to cyber attacks.
Kind of unsettling to think that someone could hack into our power grid.
It is a real concern. A lot of these systems were designed without much thought given to security, and that's created a vulnerability that cybercriminals are exploiting.
Okay, this next one is kind of wild. Mitch warned that pilots might have to go old school, using radio and paper maps for navigation, because GPS systems are increasingly being jammed or spoofed.
Yeah, that's a serious safety issue for aviation. GPS jamming or spoofing can throw off navigation, potentially leading to accidents. Reminds us that technology isn't foolproof and we need to have backup plans.
Takes me back to the days before GPS with those giant road atlases. Not always the most efficient way to get around, especially if you're flying a plane.
And the stakes are a lot higher than just getting lost, right? It's about the safety of everyone on board.
Good point. So what else did Mitch have to say?
He mentioned that the White House is thinking about banning Chinese and Russian-connected cars and software.
Wow, that's a big move. Why would they do that?
National security concerns, basically. There's worry that these connected cars could be used to collect sensitive data or even be controlled remotely by foreign governments.
Well, that's like next level carjacking, right? It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. What's next?
Mitch shared some news about Telegram, the messaging app. Apparently, they've upped their security game after France put their CEO in jail.
Wait, what? Why was he in jail?
Well, it seems the French government wasn't happy with Telegram's lack of cooperation in fighting terrorism and other criminal activity on their platform. The arrest was a way of sending a strong message that tech companies need to take responsibility for the content shared on their services.
Tough lesson to learn, but an important one. Okay, what else did Mitch cover?
He mentioned that Meta, the parent company of Facebook, got slapped with a $100 million fine for storing passwords without encrypting them.
Ugh, that's like Cybersecurity 101. You got to encrypt passwords. It's basic stuff.
I know, right? It's a reminder that data security is about more than just fancy algorithms and complex systems. Sometimes it's about doing the simple things right.
For sure. What else did Mitch share?
He brought up something that's pretty concerning, the possibility of Russia cutting undersea fiber optic cables.
Those cables carry a ton of internet traffic, right? It sounds like something out of a Cold War spy movie.
It does, doesn't it? Cutting those cables could mess up global communications, internet access, cause chaos and economic damage. It shows just how vulnerable our infrastructure is and how interconnected the world has become.
It's a bit unsettling to think about. So, what else is on Mitch's mind?
He wrapped up by emphasizing how important it is to secure industrial IoT devices because they're increasingly targeted by cybercriminals.
It seems like everything is connected to the internet these days, from our fridges to our cars to the power grid. It's amazing and a little bit scary all at the same time.
Totally agree. The Internet of Things has led to some amazing advances, but it's also created a whole new set of security challenges that we need to tackle.
Okay, I think we've covered pretty much everything from Mitch's update. That was a lot to process.
It was. Shows that cybersecurity is constantly changing, and there's always something new to learn and be aware of.
Truth. We still have a few other headlines to discuss. Ready to keep going?
Bring it on.
Before we move on, you know that thing Mitch said about Russia maybe cutting those undersea internet cables? What's your take on that?
Yeah, security experts have been talking about that for years. Those cables are like the nervous system of the internet, carrying data all over the world. If Russia decided to cut them, it would be a huge mess. Communications, financial stuff, even military operations could be disrupted.
Sounds kind of like a Cold War movie plot.
It does, doesn't it? It shows that even though the internet feels virtual, it still depends on physical stuff, and that stuff can be attacked or sabotaged.
Makes you think. So how do you even protect something like that?
It's tough. They're trying to keep a closer eye on the cables, increase security, and find alternative routes for data just in case. But honestly, it mostly just reminds us to be ready for anything, to have backup plans in place in case things go down.
Yeah, seems like a lot of the stories we've talked about come back to that same idea. Be prepared. Okay, let's move on from Mitch's update. What other cybersecurity news caught your attention?
Well, one story that stood out to me was about this group of hackers who got sentenced for going after banks and financial institutions all over the world.
Oh, yeah. What do they do?
They stole millions of dollars through some pretty sophisticated cyber attacks. Malware, phishing scams, social engineering. They used it all to break into bank systems and transfer money into their own accounts.
Sounds like something out of a heist movie.
It does, but with real-world consequences, these attacks can really hurt businesses and people, and it shows how important it is to have strong cybersecurity to protect financial systems.
What happened to the hackers?
They finally got caught and ended up with some serious prison time. It shows that law enforcement is taking cybercrime seriously, and if you get caught doing this stuff, you're going to pay the price.
Good. What else is happening in cybersecurity?
There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence or AI and how it's changing the game.
Yeah, I can see how AI could be a powerful tool for both good guys and bad guys.
Hmm.
The defenders and the attackers.
Exactly. AI can help analyze tons of data, find patterns, and spot threats way faster than humans can. But attackers can use it too to create smarter malware and launch more targeted attacks.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Totally. The key is making sure AI is used responsibly and ethically for cybersecurity. We need safeguards to keep it from being used for bad stuff and to make sure humans are still in the loop overseeing things.
Makes sense. Any other stories we should talk about before we wrap up?
Yeah, one more thing I want to mention. Ransomware attacks.
Ransomware's been around forever, though. What's different now?
It's getting worse, more sophisticated and targeted. Cyber criminals are using it to hit critical infrastructure, hospitals, even government agencies, and the ransom demands are skyrocketing millions of dollars in some cases.
That's terrifying.
It is. These attacks can be devastating, and there's no easy answer. The best defense is having really strong cybersecurity to prevent attacks in the first place, but you also need a plan for what to do if you get hit back up your data, be ready to negotiate with the attackers. It's a lot.
A lot to think about, for sure.
Definitely. We can't ignore cybersecurity. It's a crucial part of our digital lives, and it's only going to get more important as time goes on.
Well said. We covered a ton of ground today, from those new Chinese planes to the dangers of salt water to Russia, maybe messing with internet cables. It's been a wild ride through the world of cybersecurity.
It has, and it shows how fast things are changing. What's true today might not be true tomorrow, so we got to stay informed, stay sharp, and be ready to adapt.
Solid advice. Thanks for sharing your insights with us, as always.
Anytime.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into cybersecurity. Hope you learned some stuff and maybe even had a little fun along the way. Until next time, stay safe and secure out there.